You want me to put that on my Tudor?
Harry's wife. Run away, run away. Ah, somebody running away. What cowardice is this? Let's find out. This time, okay, it's the Scottish Daily Express. Oh, fuck what? And an article by Anna Sava tells us Prince Harry snubs media industry invite to discuss spare allegations and that Jeremy Clarkson column. Prince Harry did not respond to a request for participation at the Society of Editors Media Freedom Conference. Now, of course, media freedom, well, isn't that to do with the freedom of speech? But apparently, that's bonkers, according to Harry. He, having swallowed the Kool-Aid of his wife, doesn't want to be talked about unless it's favourable. She has, in essence, schooled him in the art of ensuring that there's only one type of freedom of expression, and that's where it accords with what she wants. Everybody else needs to be shut down. The hypocritical way, of course, of those that are deemed to be woke also, an area into which Harry's wife plants her own support. But Prince Harry snubbed an invite to take part in a debate about the future of royal reporting at a media freedom conference, the panel's moderator claimed. Well, hardly a surprise. Not blessed with a huge amount of brains, he would be floundering and would be made to look pretty stupid, and at least somebody has protected him, quite possibly even his own wife, by saying, you're not going to do that, you'll make us look fucking stupid, because of course he is an extension of her. It comes as the meeting looked to discuss a number of criticisms Harry made about the media in his tell-all book, Wah! Associate editor at The Telegraph, Camilla Tominey, opened a discussion at the Society of Editors Media Freedom Conference in London on Wednesday by telling the audience Prince Harry did not respond to a request for participation. We did invite Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, to take part in this panel, but Harry's wife responded on his behalf by saying that he's a very naughty boy and he's been sent to the chicken coop without any supper. Or rather, Camilla Tominey explained that they invited him, but he declined to respond. She explained as she opened the panel discussion. Before the beginning of the debate, the panel moderator read out a number of quotes from Harry about the media, including that the press had gone to bed with the devil, and the claims of the leaking and planting of stories, which, of course, Harry's wife would never, ever engage in. She would never, for instance, ensure that photographs are leaked about the children so that she can exploit that. She would never ensure, for instance, that the improbably named plastic-faced lieutenant, Omid Scobie, would be furnished with information to make her look good, leaking it. For instance, Harry's wife wouldn't go wandering around somebody else's property, taking pictures within rooms that she ought not to be going in, for the purposes of ensuring that she has that information which she can then leak. No, Harry's wife wouldn't do any of those things, would she? Of course not. She's as pure as the driven snow. The only snow that she's as pure as is the stuff that she purportedly hoovers up her nostrils, if you believe certain sources about what goes on within the Sussex household. Of course, that's entirely speculation. But getting back to the article, well, Miss Tominey told the conference, well, we know where one member of the royal family stands. Harry has spoken publicly a number of times about his views on the British media, as well as taking legal action against publishers for libel and alleged unlawful information gathering. At the conference, the Daily Mirror's royal editor, Russell Myers, defended the media's coverage of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, saying that when Harry's wife first came on the scene, it was overwhelmingly positive, which of course is at odds with the way that Harry's wife portrays it, the way that she says that she was almost a victim of a witch hunt. Of course, the evidence of the headlines and the news articles will speak for themselves. During a question and answer session with representatives of the British press, Ms. Tominey said a question she wanted to ask Prince Philip, the late Duke of Edinburgh, was what he thought of Harry and Harry's wife's interview with Oprah Winfrey, adding, "I'm not sure that would be printable." The debate also covered a number of other controversies, including Jeremy Clarkson's heavily criticised column about the Duchess of Sussex. The Sun newspaper apologised and said it deeply regretted the article in which Clarkson wrote he had dreamed of Harry's wife being paraded through British towns and publicly shamed. The panel agreed that they would absolutely not defend the column, with royal editor at the Sunday Times, Roy Nicar, saying that the presenter himself had acknowledged he was wrong to write it, and that it would not have been printed in the Sunday Times. So interestingly, that the media industry, having a bit of a shindig and a knees up and conference and a discussion, wanted to involve Prince Harry and invited him to participate. Of course, he's not going to do so because Harry's wife wouldn't let him. He's only wheeled out for the purposes of where she wants to ensure that he does something that propagates her own interests. And essentially this would be seen as entering the lion's den. Now you might think to herself, or rather to yourself, well, she doesn't care about him, so why doesn't she do that? Well, the issue is, of course, is that the topics that would be discussed and related to would impact upon her, and therefore her narcissism would want to shield herself from such criticism and mauling, by extension through him, and therefore she would forbid him from attending. Furthermore, it's not like we're seeing a brilliant legal advocate who's able to deal with various arguments at once, parrying and thrusting with rapier-like ability. We're talking about the dim-witted Prince of Pink Pancakes, who would struggle when he's faced with some hostile, albeit legitimate questioning. We've seen, of course, when he's been interviewed, it's invariably soft-soaping that goes on. But even when Anderson Cooper, I think it was, who asked him about, well, why don't you get rid of the titles? Even that caused Prince Harry to bristle and come back with the rather pathetic response of, well, what difference would that make? So you can imagine that he would be given a completely torrid time by some educated forensic and, of course, fang-toothed journalists. All of this, of course, does present the question, would Harry's wife, and by extension Harry, ever submit to a proper interview where key questions were asked in terms of, why do you behave with the children the way that you do? How old are you actually? Why have you told lies? And then provide them with evidence of the lies that have been told to determine what the reaction would be. I'm sure that you could imagine a whole host of questions that you would like to pose to them. For instance, were you a yacht girl? What do you say about this evidence demonstrating that you were? How well do you know Prince Andrew? How old are you really? Here's some evidence that shows that you are older than you actually are. Why did you bully your staff? Why did you tell this lie? Why did you tell that lie? As the evidence is put before her. It would certainly make for killer television, but of course, Harry's wife's narcissism is never going to let her do that, because it apprehends the threat that is posed by it, in the same way that her narcissism apprehended the threat that was posed by the invitation that came from the Society of Editors to Harry, and therefore she prevented him from going, not because she cares about him, although that's what she would betray, but rather she would ensure it would be turned down, because such an invitation would be recognised as a threat to her control over that all-important narrative. And accordingly, it was the case of the Sussexes running away and her asserting control by staying in a position of withdrawal. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.